This is the Breakaway for those watching on Facebook, YouTube and Twitter. Welcome along. Jesus Herrada with a win on stage 6. Dylan Turns in the red jersey, but Miguel Angel Lopez still with his time on the winner's podium nonetheless, because he keeps the jersey for the best young rider. And here is the newly shaken up GC, because Dylan Turns takes the red jersey, takes the overall race lead. David de la Cruz has moved up significantly to second place. He's 38 seconds back. Miguel Angel Lopez, the best of the rest, exactly 1 minute behind. And Primoz Roglic keeps his 14-second buffer behind that, with Nairo Quintana now sharing time with Robert Hessink, the biggest mover of the day, behind Turns and De La Cruz. Got Valverde, Chavez, Maika and Pogacar behind that. Well, Brian and Matt are alongside me to go through a day that was absolutely packed with drama right from the start. But first, I do want to give another quick mention to Jesus Herrada, Matt, because you were alongside his girlfriend watching his run into the line. That was a hugely emotional win for him and for his whole family.
Yeah, as we said, you know, third place yesterday for his brother, and then his girlfriend was intently watching the screen amongst us all, the journalists in the Swan years. And when he made that attack and opened up a gap, you knew he was going to win. She burst into tears, held her face, then ran over to meet him. He collapsed on the floor. He was very emotional. He made the hair stand up on the back of my neck. But that's what this sport is all about. Moments like that make this sport what it is. They're very special.
Absolutely, and it is lovely to see new faces in leaders' jerseys as well, because we've had Miguel Angel Lopez so far, we've had Nico Roach. Today, Dylan Turns. This is a big day for him.
Well, it's a massive thing for him, and you can only remember the Planche de Belfi in the Tour de France when he took that magnificent stage victory. Don't underestimate Dylan Turns. It's another very difficult, steep finish tomorrow's stage, so I think he could possibly hold on to that jersey. He's come here with Barry and Merida to try and finish as well up in the general classification. Okay, he's had a couple of bad days, but today he showed he's got some good form.
Okay, well, let's get into the early drama of the race then, because just as we were coming on air earlier with our preview show, we got word that Rigoberto Urán, Hugh Carthy and Victor Laporte had dropped out, so they'd abandoned the race. A few moments later, we heard that Nico Roach had done the same. This huge crash that's decimated the top 10, really, Matt.
Yeah, losing anybody through a crash in a race is bad enough, but to lose such big stars as Nico and as Rigoberto Urán, and then Hugh Carthy as well, and later on TJ Van Garderen crashed. Hopefully he's okay as well. But no, a lot of riders came down. But that is bike racing, and it happens from time to time. It's just very unfortunate that such key riders have been lost to the race, so we expect it to animate later on.
Well, we understand that TJ Van Garderen did get back on his bike again, so mercifully not too badly injured at least. But before you came here, Matt, you spoke to George Bennett, who was caught up in that crash. So let's hear that interview now.
George, another fast stage, another change in the leadership, but a big crash which has wiped out some big contenders. And I understand you came down as well. What happened?
I'm not sure. Someone from EF, I think, went down first, or it was Tony, but it was a real nasty crash. So, you know, I don't feel too good after it, but I think I feel a lot better than the guys that are in the hospital. So, yeah, it's just part of racing, I guess, crashing. And, you know, it's all going, you know, in terms of Roglic's results, it's all right so far, but we just keep hitting the deck, and, oh, yeah, it's not good.
Hopefully your injury's okay, but you still seem to manage to finish right near the front at the sharp end at the end of the climb.
Yeah, I mean, what can you do? You crash, and then you know, sympathy.
Adrenaline.
Yeah, maybe, but, like, I mean, you can't really sulk in a Pro Tour race. You just got to get on with it, because no one gives a shit, really, if you've crashed, and you just got to keep going. So it's unfortunate, but me, Tony and Nielsen all went down, and yeah, I mean, I'll have a look maybe with a talk to the doctor, see what's through with me, but I think the other two for sure at least are all good. So we'll have a look, and hopefully by the time we, in a few days' time, we forget about today, and yeah.
It seems to be a very unpredictable race. I mean, nobody really seems to want to protect the jersey at the moment. It seems to be changing so much.
Yeah, I think we all know what's coming, you know. And yesterday I talked with Movistar. They came to me, and then same again today, to sort of try and form an allegiance to put one up. But it just doesn't really make sense in terms of like yesterday, you know, there would have been a time bonus for Lopez. And we don't really care who's winning at the moment, you know, like as strange as it sounds, we're sort of more interested in the second and third week, and then, you know, then you won't see things like this. But for the moment, everyone knows what's coming. We'll all see in the road book, and yeah, I mean, it was such a hard start. We didn't want to commit guys, and then especially after, you know, 50% of our team went down in a steaming heap, we definitely were in no state to be riding today.
Okay, George, thanks very much, and I hope you heal fast, and the rest of the team too.
Thanks, mate. George.
Well, apologies for the little bit of colourful language that George Bennett used in his interview there, although some people get equally offended by the apology, so there you have it. Brian, not a good day for Jumbo-Visma, really. I mean, any day that you see a number of your teammates taking a tumble isn't good. This isn't the first time in this race, and they've already lost Steven Kruijswijk, and there were 3 of them caught up in that crash to boot.
Yeah, you don't need it. You mentioned earlier on the team time trial. Now losing Kruijswijk, 3 riders on the deck. You know, you don't need that. We saw Roglic earlier on in the year when in the Giro d'Italia, he was pretty much isolated. You know, what must he be thinking? You know, 2 crashes with the team's injury. You know, he doesn't want to be isolated. Okay, they had Robert Hissink in the breakaway today. He looked a bit stronger. He moves up in the general classification. But to miss Kruijswijk is a big blow to them. To have 3 riders in that crash today. You know, we say it always in commentary, everybody gets into team order, but it's not always the best thing to do. There's times and places, but that was kind of halfway through the stage. Sometimes it's good to say to the guys, spread out a little bit, because if luck's not against you and there's a crash, then one of your guys is in, not 3, but you can't take anything away. They weren't the only team that had multiple riders in that crash today.
Well, Matt, George Bennett said something very interesting there. He said that he doesn't really know what's going on in terms of the stage wins, and that the GC contenders don't seem to be that bothered as to who is taking the stage win. He pointed out that Angel Lopez missed out really on a bonus yesterday, a time bonus if he'd gone for the stage win. Whose responsibility is that to change it around? Is it Astana's?
It's only by the book of unwritten rules was it Astana's. That's the thing. The beautiful thing about pro cycling, we think that there's certain kind of rules that the teams and riders kind of like carry themselves to, but this race is quite unpredictable because of what's coming, because of how difficult the next couple of weeks are. I think Astana are reluctant to commit fully. I don't think they saw anybody in that front group as a real major threat at the end of the race. It's all about winning in Madrid. It's not about defending the jersey. They're a team that have come to this race to win this race, not just to wear the jersey. And to take a bit of pressure off, leave the riding to another couple of teams on some difficult stages is probably a good idea. But yeah, we just saw them back off at the foot of the climb, whereas normally they'd be racing into it at high speeds. So the team's kind of looking at each other. Bennett said that he spoke to Valverde as well, and they said, we're not interested in chasing. So it is very, very interesting, but I think people are just worried about how ferociously difficult the next few weeks are.
I alluded to that this morning, that I was a bit in trepidation how Astana would play this, because, okay, they won the team time trial, but for me, they haven't looked great. They left Lopez isolated in stage 2, so it was no surprise to me that they decided to give away that leadership of the race. It's another day tomorrow that they don't have to control things. I don't think they're looking super in this Vuelta. They may all come good at the right time, and that's what they're playing on. You can see very early on, we can see it in the Tour as well, that breaks are going away early. There's a lot of gaps in the general classification. There's big opportunities for stage wins, but nobody really wants to have that red jersey. I think they were thankful that Sunweb controlled it. Yesterday they got no help at all. It's very difficult to hold that red jersey the whole way through the race.
Brian, as you were talking, Sam Bennett just rode past in his green jersey. He keeps that on his back for another day. And we wish all the riders who've crashed out today, of course, all the very best in their recovery. Let's change gears slightly now, though, because yesterday's stage win by Angel Madrazo got us thinking a little bit. It didn't go unnoticed on social media that there was a bit of a resemblance. I've never seen Superbad, but he resembles McLovin.
Watch it. It's a cracking film.
Well, I've seen the pictures at least, and there is quite a resemblance there. But it got us thinking about other lookalikes in the peloton, and you have been fantastic at sending in your pictures. I love them. So let's have a little look. Larry Warbass, thank you for this, taking time out of your busy riding to tweet us this one. Am I the only person who thinks Sonny Colbrelli looks like Ben Affleck? I have never seen that before. I cannot unsee it now.
I think it's Ben Affleck's face superimposed onto Colbrelli's face. That is astonishing.
Looks good, doesn't it?
That's up there, Brian, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Sonny Colbrelli, That was a few years ago. He's maybe matured a little bit, but yeah, that's
This is Ben Affleck. Happens to us all, Brian.
That's a good comparison. I'm just upset they never used the one with me and George Clooney.
Oh my goodness, he's been trying to get me to get that in all day to try to say that he looks like George Clooney, and I didn't do it.
No,
I certainly did not. He got it in himself. Anyway,
too disturbing.
Graham Wilgoss, our colleague on the Bradley Wiggins podcast, has been in touch to point out one we all know and we love: Rigoberto Urán and Mick Jagger. It is uncanny, isn't it, Brian?
They're the same person, no doubt about it in my mind. Absolutely same person.
Now, I love this one. What do we say? Fabio Aru, and have you ever thought of this before? Ed Miliband.
What?
Do you remember the days when politicians used to get
amazing.
vilified for not being able to eat a bacon sarnie? They were innocent times, weren't they, Matt? Look at that.
That really is something special. I've never seen that before. That is uncanny.
Now, you said about faces being superimposed. I am absolutely convinced that this is actually Ryan Reynolds in an Astana jersey.
That's
apparently
identical.
it's not.
Twins.
Apparently it's Ballerini.
They're twins, they
Wow.
have to be.
Amazing. And we have a final one to show you. And it is from our colleague back at Eurosport in London, who has pointed out the comparison between Marcus Berghardt and Jason, How I Met Your Mother, Seagull. There were ones we couldn't show. Adam Blythe have been compared to both Tom Selleck and Miley Cyrus. They're pictures you've just got to look up on
I've got
Twitter.
one corker
Anyway.
as well. Look it up. Girafarig, who's one of the Pokemon, compare him to Tony Martin.
Oh, yes.
Girafarig
Very
and
good.
Tony Martin.
We could go on, we probably will. Anyway,
Sorry.
we are moving on next to stage 7, and there won't be much to laugh about there for the riders at least. It is the dessert in the 3-course summit finish buffet, beginning in the magnificent setting of the town of Ondo. We have a virtually flat first half to the day until we turn inland, where the riders will take on 4 intermediate climbs, followed by the brutal climb up the Map de la Costa for a 3rd summit finish in a row. The last climb has been described as basically a wall. It lasts 4 kilometres, and this is what the stage will all come down to. Be prepared for yet another dramatic finale. Before that, though, you can catch highlights of today's action-packed stage, quite frankly, tonight at 8 o'clock, British Summertime on Eurosport 1. We will be back at 1:45 once again with stage 7 on Eurosport 1 tomorrow, and we are, as ever, spoiling you for live coverage of cycling, because we've got stage 2 of the Tour of Germany tomorrow at 2:15 British Summertime. That's live on the Eurosport player with highlights at 6:30 on Eurosport 1. Well, for some big hitters today mark the end of their Vuelta a España. The celebrations are only getting started, though, for Jesus Herrada, who takes the win on stage 6. More drama in store with another summit finish in the cards tomorrow. Join us then.
Coverage of